Welcome to another episode of Everybody Loves Raymond Chandler.
Whoa.
Not really.
Um uh yeah, welcome to it was Noir month, but it's basically turned into Raymond Chandler month. Um
No.
I'm Pierce.
And I am Justin, and
Mhm.
we're not just any book club where we read two different books under the same umbrella of a theme, such as in this case being Raymond Chandler. And this is my first experience with noir. That's gonna be really annoying. Sorry for anyone that is gonna be really annoyed with my pronunciation of the word noir, but noir is essentially a genre of fiction. Some might even say pulp fiction, where essentially it is just a crime mystery that is just all about that atmosphere, dark, grimy, and full of quick quips and witty one-liners. Usually having a detective in the middle of it.
Mhm. 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 And the very classic I would say feeling that noir has is but was basically created by Raymond Chandler. Obviously worked on over time by lots of creatives, but it feels you can feel it real strong with Raymond Chandler. In fact, while I was reading it, there were times when I was like, man, all that's missing is like rain on a window pane in black and white, and we're there. Um, and funnily enough, there was rain later.
Yeah. Um, I essentially you can read all of his books, basically just going see, and in that very stereotypical 1940s accent.
Hmm.
So, but surprisingly enough, I don't think he is the creator, the progenitor of detective hardboiled noir fiction. I think that honor goes to Dashiell Hammett, who
Yes.
he
I just meant
made
I just meant stylistically. He's the
stylistically, yeah.
source of a lot of what we think of as noir now.
Yes. Um, I haven't read any Dashiell Hammett to be honest, but I'm pretty sure that it would be very hard to kind of top how often imitated Raymond Chandler is, because you got the quips, the witty one-liners, the really cool suave detective, and
Mm.
the femme fatales, the dames, and lots of convoluted crime. And to be upfront, I don't know if we're gonna go full on spoiler with this, but it's kind of hard to talk about mysteries without delving into the plot.
Yes. Well, and also just this genre is so heavily like vibe and plot based that
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to discuss it beyond like, man, it really feels like noir, and then the
Yeah.
plot, and then like that's it. That's most of what there is to talk about.
But the good news is, one, no one reads Raymond Chandler for the plot. Two, I really had no idea what was going on. This is my second time reading it, and it is such a complex plot. And some things get resolved, some things don't. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't really the intent, because I think it is the plot is really just an excuse for Raymond Chandler to
Yeah.
just really right away.
It does certainly feel a pretty convoluted at times. I will admit. Um, it's still enjoyable, but I don't know, not my cup of tea. I would like. I feel like I would be more in love with a mystery that's like
Yeah,
very
fair play.
tight. Yeah, very tight. And it's a little. Raymond Chandler's a little looser with it.
He's no Hercule Poirot, he's no Sherlock Holmes, but you're not really there for that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, a little bit into Raymond Chandler. Apparently, he knew that he had talent. He was a writer in the pulp magazine Black Mask, which was not very notable, but like a lot of his stories originated there. And many of his stories, he created the character of Phillip Marlowe, who was this very suave detective. And eventually, he decided to just amalgamate all these short stories and kind of Frankenstein all these short stories into novels. Which I think the first one was The Big Sleep. The third one is The High Window. Um, and he was very well respected. He was aware of his talent, and he really wanted to be a serious novelist, but I guess he was lazy. Some literary some literary critics really did admire his work, and some were even talking about Chandler being nominated for a Nobel Prize. But I read this New York Times article in my research for this, and quote, "Do I wish to be a great writer? Do I wish to win the Nobel Prize? Not if it takes too much hard work. What the hell? They give the Nobel Prize to too many second raters for me to get excited about it." So I don't think he really cared about it doing any of that. Um, but I think that he is a talented writer. For just I could pull up a bunch of quotes right now, but I don't want to over inundate you with that. Um, but he was quite an interesting person. Like he had a pretty mundane life. But he did have some weird, strange behavioral issues. I don't know how bitter he was, but I think we're all kind of aware of. We talked in Double Indemnity when he took the writing job for Double Indemnity and was kind of a big jerk to Billy Wilder. And they never worked together again, even though they kind of respected to each other. There was one story about Chandler while he was eating lunch with some friends at the film studio. An old man came up to him and told Chandler that he admired his work, so much so that he wanted to shake him by the hand. Chandler, embarrassed, just replied, "I never shake hands." The old man stood there for a moment, not knowing what to say or do, and then he walked away. As he did, Chandler said in a voice loud enough to be heard at the neighboring tables, "Who's that old bastard? Imagine coming around here and making a nuisance of himself." So I'm guessing this guy was kind of a loner because what a guy. And some say that he may have just had some social anxiety. Some say that he had a skin allergy. He had a bunch of medical issues later on in his life, which kind of made him old and bitter, which kind of seeps into the cynicism of the story that he writes. So um, I've actually read The Big Sleep and I've also watched the movie. If you want to start talking about that, I feel like I'll butt in a lot.
Yeah. I sorry, I was also just looking at Raymond Chandler's Wikipedia page real quick, and I noticed a short story called "The King in Yellow,"
Oh,
which
because
I googled, and it is it is supposed to be a reference to Chambers' book. For those of you who don't know, "The King in Yellow" was written by Robert Chambers. Uh,
I think so. I think actually that you're right.
Robert W. Chambers. It was a short story collection written by Robert W. Chambers that heavily influenced Lovecraft, and also the King in Yellow is now a character in like the Lovecraftian mythos, Hastur. Um, and so it was striking to me immediately that he used that phrase. Apparently, it is supposed to be that. I can't find that much information in the short story, except that apparently it's the literary backbone for True Detective.
Oh,
Yeah.
you actually didn't know that?
I
Wow.
I mean I knew that True
Huh.
Detective season 1 was very Lovecraftian, but I did not know of its relation. I mean I didn't know that much about Raymond Chandler. So,
Huh. I mean, I've been meaning to watch. Damn, really should have done something for True Detective because I haven't watched it and I've been meaning to.
maybe one
um,
day, maybe one
maybe
day.
one day. Um, and
Anyways,
yeah,
back to the actual topic of
yeah.
today.
I apparently a lot of his stories are not available. Well, because I guess the magazine The Black Mask went under, so
Mhm.
I don't think it'll be. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's somewhere out there, but like the magazine's not well preserved or remembered. So I don't know. um, and another book that he wrote was The Simple Art of Murder, which is an essay on detective fiction. So if you're interested about Chandler's perspective on mysteries, I'm assuming that he doesn't really care about the plotting and just more about the atmosphere. You can check that out as well. But take it away, Pierce. Try to summarize the plot as best as you can. I'm probably not going to be
Okay.
able to. Just saying.
So, Philip Marlowe, our king, our detective, he is called to the home of a wealthy, elderly military man, General Sternwood, um, and he wants Marlowe to deal with blackmail. that's being put against his daughter
Mm-hmm.
by a bookseller. Uh, she had previously been blackmailed before, and it's happened again because his daughters live pretty wild lives. So it's like it's like pretty easy to come across some things to blackmail them with, supposedly. Um, his older daughter, the one not being blackmailed, is in a loveless marriage with a man, who is a I forget exactly what he does, but he
He's a bookseller.
no different is a different guy. So
Okay.
the bookseller is blackmailing the younger daughter, and in this conversation we also find out that the older daughter is in a loveless marriage with a man named Rusty. Um and Rusty has disappeared. And then on his way out, um the older daughter stops Marlowe and she's like, were you hired to find my husband who's disappeared? And but Marlowe won't say because he's got ideals and values, and he's not gonna tell you what he was hired to do if you didn't hire him. He investigates the bookstore. He does this like 3 more times where he shows up and the like assistant there is like, "Oh, our boss isn't in right now." He goes here like multiple times. It's a little ridiculous that he just keeps showing up to the same place, and he finds out like there's like crumbs of clues that he finds out every time he goes, and I'm like, dog, please go somewhere else. Like, um, but he on his first go, he figures out that they are selling, or maybe not selling, but they're somehow involved in illegal pornography like racket. The bookstore is. He follows the bookseller home. He sees Carmen, who is the younger daughter who's being blackmailed. He sees her go in, and then he hears gunshots and sees a car speeding away, and he rushes in. The bookseller has been murdered. What?
Oh no.
and uh, and the younger daughter is there, drugged up and naked. Um, and she's in front of an empty camera. He takes her home, and then comes back, and the bookseller's body is gone. The police find out that he's like sniffing around, and they call him in. And he's not really able to tell them much. But the police are wondering if he's trying to find Reagan as well. They ask him if that's what he's been hired to do. Because nobody knows about the blackmail, but a lot of people know that this guy has gone missing. And then he goes back to the bookstore to stake it out. He's trying to figure out what's going on with this pornography racket, essentially. And so he follows this truck. I believe this is this time that he goes there. He follows this truck. He almost loses it, and then he gets like a cab, and the cab driver is like, he's like, "Can you drive? Can you like ignore the laws for a second and follow that truck?" And the cab's like, "Yes." Like, as long as you pay me. I believe he loses them for a minute. But he goes.
I remember there's a shootout, or is that way later on?
This is later. That's later.
Way later. Sorry for jumping ahead.
He does meet the guy from the shootout a little earlier, I believe. But he goes to this guy's house who he figured out did the shooting. His name's Brody. And the bookstore clerk is there. Like, they're hanging out together. Marlowe comes in and he I believe he gets he's gonna get the nude photos from him, and then Carmen like comes in with a gun.
Yeah.
Uh, and then Marlowe takes her gun and makes her leave. And then he interrogates the guy further because clearly there's more to the story, and he starts putting the pieces together.
Mhm.
Um,
I do want to say that fun fact. Someone walking like Chandler used this trope a lot. Someone just walking in with a gun just out of nowhere. That is called Chandler's Law, or
hmm.
supposedly, because it's been coined the fact that like if you want to escalate tension, just introduce a firearm, and if you want a surprise, just have someone walk in with a gun.
What's funny about that is in the scene that I'm describing, he does it a second time.
Wow, it's a
Yeah,
conga line.
so he Carmen comes in, she's threatening him with the gun. Marlowe takes the gun and he's like, "Get out of here, you crazy crazy woman. Get
Yeah.
out." And she leaves and then he's interrogating Brody and he's putting some pieces together about he was staking out the bookseller and then he went in
Mhm.
there and killed him, took the photos and he's been blackmailing them. Um and then another guy knocks on the door and he shoots Brody. uh oh, I guess he didn't. Never mind.
Uh,
Brody, sorry, Brody did not kill
yeah.
Geiger.
Yeah.
Um again, convoluted. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to cut this out because Justin is completely gone. Oh
All right.
boy.
So Discord just completely just crashed on me.
Okay. I was checking if it was my internet. Okay. Cut in here.
Okay.
Um so yeah, what I was going to say, sorry about the weird cut. What I was going to say is I guess Brody did not actually kill Geiger, somebody else did. Um yeah, he pursued the driver, knocked him out, stole the film and possibly pushed the car off the pier.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is convoluted. I have
Yeah.
a I have a page
Yeah.
open next to me to make sure I get the details right.
Yeah. You
Like
don't have to get
like
every single
yeah,
detail.
like we said, it's very convoluted.
Yeah.
Um,
There is one famous hanging thread. I don't know if you mentioned this, but the chauffeur, um, that was that died at
mhm.
the beginning or the end. I don't remember when
Is
this happened.
towards the beginning.
Yeah. So when they were adapting this to film, that's a plot thread that's just left hanging. No one knows what happened to him. If he was murdered or he committed suicide. Um, when William Faulkner, who was an author we also covered, by the way, he also did movies and he was helping write the screenplay for this. And fittingly enough, he also found it really confusing. You out confused William Faulkner. Can you believe that? They sent a letter to Raymond Chandler and just asked him like, "Hey, do you know who killed the chauffeur, or if he died by suicide, or what happened?" And then Chandler was just like, "I don't know, figure it out."
that that uh that does sound like him from the little I've read of him. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Figure it out. Pothole? No.
nah.
No, 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 no. So anyway, this is the end of the case because he gets the photos back. He figures out who's blackmailing the daughter and why, but not actually, right? Because
Mhm.
Rusty's missing, and that's nagging him. And so then Marlowe gets caught up in all of the whatever's happening with him. Rusty was like involved with. It now gets even more convoluted, by the way,
Yeah.
if you can't tell. Rusty is like, okay, so okay, so So the police think that Rusty ran off with this girl named Mona. Okay, that he was in a loveless marriage and he ran off with somebody. So Marlowe, I forget how, but he gets the information. He gets some information on where she is. She's like way out in like the country somewhere, like
Mm-hmm.
you like off the highway in like a motel or something. I forget. It's like some building. Um. Oh yeah. There's a repair shop with a home in the back. Um. Where that's where. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
Uh,
goes there and he pretends like, oh, I'm lost. My wheel is flat, and and then he gets beat up and knocked out, and then he wakes up and Mona's there, and she just says, I did not kill him, I swear, and then she lets him go. She frees him. Um, and then Marlowe goes back. Spoilers. Should I just spoil the end of the
Slowly,
mystery?
and at this point, no one knows what's going on.
Yeah. So Marlowe comes back to General Sternwood, and he's like, General Sternwood is like, you know what? My bad. I actually did want you to find Rusty. That's my mistake. I'll give you an extra $1,000 if you're able to locate him. Then Marlowe returns the girl's gun, the one who like ran in to like shoot the guy or whatever, and she asks him to teach her how to shoot. They go out into an abandoned field and she tries to shoot him. But he's loaded the gun with blanks. He's 15, 25 steps ahead, okay? So he fills the gun with blanks and then he just like laughs at her. And so Carmen like has a seizure and Marlowe brings her back and tells her older sister that what he thinks happened, that Rusty or Carmen came onto Rusty because she's wild, and he turned her down, so she killed him. And then she got involved with this local crime guy who I didn't talk about at all, who's kind of a
You know
big
what happened.
figure. She got involved with Geiger and a bunch of other stuff to dispose of the body.
Hmm.
And so the blackmail, I think, what is inferred, what is supposed to be inferred, is that the blackmail from Geiger is not these photos. It's that he knows that she murdered Rusty. Well, I mean, he's dead now, but he did know that she murdered Rusty.
Okay.
So, and like
I,
the Rusty side story doesn't come out of nowhere, but it's also like he's hired to do a job and then it just like escalates out of nowhere. He's like, man, I can't get this Rusty guy out of my head. And then he goes to the local crime guy who I didn't talk about. His name is Eddie. And he's like trying to figure out what happened. And that's when he figures out all the stuff with Mona and like where she's supposed to be at. It's kind of, it gets kind of wild and just like jumps, escalates.
yeah.
And I think that's really probably Raymond Chandler's fault. The style is great. The writing is good.
Yeah.
But because of the way that he put these novels together, where he just like slams two short stories together or three or whatever it
How
is for
many?
whatever
Yeah.
novel, because of that, I feel like it makes it very much like a like it kind of jumps in intensity and jumps around in terms of what we're supposed to be actually like following.
Yeah. That is a common criticism. That's almost the exact criticism I have. I mean, okay. There's a lot of critique about Raymond Chandler. I mean, we can appreciate his style, his prose. Um, And also it's plotting because I'm not gonna say it's all over the place, but it is really all over the place. There are some plot threads that never get addressed. There are just some things that could have been a lot simpler. I would have also really just, maybe, I don't know if this says something about my intelligence, but hey, if there was a chapter that was like, all right, I'm going to slam the brakes, I'm going to summarize everything that happened, because as you can tell,
Oh my god, that would be so good if you could
yeah,
just be like, if he could just, if he could get to the halfway point, or even like in this book, it would actually be perfect if between he was between the like, oh, I can't get this rusty guy out of my head, and him actually going out to do it. If he could just be like, okay, so this is what happened, and this is why I'm curious
yeah,
about what's going on with Rusty. But as it is, he just suddenly Marlowe is suddenly like, you know what? There's something fishy going on with that Rusty guy. I bet. I know, you know.
yeah. This would have been a lot easier to explain it if I know we don't have any visuals, but if we had a corkboard with a bunch of yarn and photographs just connecting, and we could have just acted all of it out. And it still would not make any sense, but it would make a little bit more sense. Just at least you would convey how complicated the plots are, because does it make sense? Maybe, possibly, but it could. Like, explaining this in chronological order, it's probably not the best thing we can do right now. It's
I
probably not
probably
instructive.
I probably could have bulleted it out and made it at least a little bit easier to follow, but like I think the eclectic nature of just like saying what happens out loud is it kind of lends itself well to just how confused you might be reading it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've read a few of his books, and every time I'm just like, is it just me? Am I dumb for not getting it? I don't
yeah.
know who this character is. I'm like, is it just me? And then I'm like, oh, everyone else is confused. Even
Yeah,
the author himself.
again, the Eddie, the crime guy who I have again haven't talked that much about. When he meets him, okay, he the first time he shows up, you're Marlowe is going back to where the bookseller died, and he goes to the into the house, and the guy he just like shows up, like he's just like, ah, what are you doing here? See, like it's like, who is this guy? What? I still could not tell you like why he was actually involved in what was going on with Geiger that well. Like I
Hmm.
probably could put like it together a little bit, but he didn't. I don't know. It didn't really feel like he had that much of a reason to be really involved with the bookseller guy Geiger.
Yeah. Um, we're not gonna try to. I mean, we could try to dissect the plot later, but again, we talked about the atmosphere and tone. And his narration style is great, but it is also very much a product of its time, because oh boy, the misogyny in here. All the female characters are I don't want to say helpless, but they are wilty. They just basically they're helpless. They somehow the character of Philip Marlowe just emits pheromones that makes every single woman within the vicinity just fall in love with him, or just be madly attracted to him. It's
Okay,
a lot
that
worse.
that's that second part is true. I feel like the older sister and Mona are not completely helpless.
Okay.
Um, but the part about them like falling in love with him for basically nothing is definitely true.
Yeah, it is a bit of wish fulfillment, very much unrealistic wish fulfillment. Um, Sorry guys, unless you're in the 0.0001% of the male population thing. Good for you. You're probably not listening to this podcast. Maybe you are. You definitely are. Um, in the movie, he's played by Humphrey Bogart. Which he may not be the most attractive man, but he sells the part. And in the movie, there are several moments. It was famously chopped up to be just like to make the plot even make less sense, but to focus more on the chemistry between him and Lauren Bacall, who later they got married, so they really maximized that. Um, Basically, Philip Marlowe would walk into there's this one scene where Philip Marlowe just walks into a bookstore and he sees a really attractive woman behind the counter, and the woman essentially she closes down the store and goes like, "All right, um, let's fade to black, just randomly. Why? I don't know." And then there's another scene where Philip Marlowe is in a taxi cab, and the woman who happens to be driving the taxi cab seems to be very very attractive, and then gives him her number and address and time to meet. I, I that does not happen in real life, and I don't know what happened in the 1940s, but I don't know. That it seems to be very tongue in cheek in the movie, and in the book, it just seems to be like, yeah, this is how people were like back then, or in this area, or this is how they should be. Which, sorry, Chandler, that's not how it should be. There's also some brief anti-Semitism. I think he refers to one by calling her a Jew-ish or Jewess, something like that.
Yeah.
Not great, and probably says something that there's a bunch of other bigoted stuff. It's the 40s. What do you expect? There's gonna be stuff like that, but it's a bit of a damper on the on us praising the pros,
Yeah.
because
It,
it's there.
Chandler, like, to be honest, what I like we say, the prose is good. Personally, he
Oh,
seems like kind of a jerk. Like, just like as a human being, like kind of like, kind of crappy. Not just for the things that we've mentioned, but also just like personality wise. Like, it's funny. Like, he's like
now to us,
like he, the thing that you said, that he yelled after that guy. Like, he's a funny kind of jerk,
not
but
someone we want to hang out with.
yeah, not someone I'd want to hang out with. He seems kind of crappy in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's dead now, so I don't think he can. He's not gonna come to listen to this podcast and yell at us. But thank you for your influence on the genre. But maybe you don't meet your heroes. He was never my hero, anyways. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I liked my book. I'm not gonna summarize my book because I feel like that's just
I
gonna
feel like
be
two book summaries would two Raymond Chandler book summaries would go kind of
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but I will say that somehow a dentist gets involved in that entire scheme. I don't know how that gets happened. Maybe I zoned out for a second, but like I was like, why is there a dentist? What? Why is he involved in this? A lot of things happen. And it's the same thing with Pierce. The vibes,
Right?
not the
Yeah,
plot.
yeah. And that's kind of the thing. I feel like we don't really have to like, we got the
We're
idea
sparing
across
you.
that
We're sparing
we
you, Mercy.
we got the idea across that it's confusing and hard to
Yeah.
follow with one of
Oh,
them. So let's not like belabor the point by further confusing everybody.
yeah. But some writers tend to write stories and others write writing, and I like to think that Raymond Chandler really falls hard in that second category, because that's him. Do you want to talk about the character of Philip Marlowe, at least? Because honestly, I really like the idea. I feel like we should harken back to these days. I'm pretty sure they're popular now, where we would have one character that would just appear in standalone stories across, with very little continuity in between each. You can read whatever, because I just read the third book twice. I forgot what happened, and this is my second time reading it. I didn't know that I read it before. Um, yeah, basically it's just very low continuity, standalone stories. It's basically like your own Agatha Christie novel, where Philip Marlowe just does his own thing, or does his own thing in each story, and sometimes they'll reference each other, sometimes not. Do you have anything to say about Raymond Chandler and his internal monologue and his swabness?
It it honestly really does feel like wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
Like, man, I wish I could be this. Like, Philip Marlowe is like the guy where it's like, after you leave a conversation and you're like, damn, I should have said that. That's what Philip Marlowe
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Like, it's again like very much wish fulfillment on the part of Raymond Chandler, which is okay. That's fine. You know, you can
Yeah.
you know you could do that. That's cool, I guess. But but I don't know. He doesn't like.
Oh, you don't want to be him.
Yeah, he, he
Okay.
he doesn't like I don't know, he doesn't feel like a real person to me. Like he's cool,
He's a
but
cartoon character.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that the idea of him, that he's an upstanding guy that's always on the side of justice. That even though that being a gumshoe, a private dick, I'm trying to look up other synonyms for private investigator, um, but essentially he just hates crime and immorality. He does not get paid very well. I think in the book he gets paid $25 an hour or something very minimal, not $25 an hour. So something very just very small because $25 an hour.
He mentions it a few times in the Big Sleep where he's
Ye-
like, "Oh, I got paid. I do it all for this much per hour plus expenses."
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's very noble. He also really hates corruption. He also hates cops that are happen to be corrupt and that get in the way of the law. So he like I don't think there's a very positive portrayal of police in general across all these books because they always seem to be corrupt. And I think that's kind of what Raymond Chandler is going for because in each book there's a lot of murder going on, a lot of thievery, and it's all in the city. That's all very grimy, and there's not many. Mur- all the people that happen to be moral tend to be victimized or get caught up in crime that does not involve them. Um,
And the
so
cops can't keep up with any of it, either for lack of ability or in some cases lack of trying because they're corrupt.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this also harkens back to like how private investigators were portrayed back then because I don't have the book with me, but I remember reading in Killers of the Flower Moon where essentially they viewed private investigators as the best alternative to the corrupt police. Um, so if that was true in like the 1920s when there was a big boom in the economy, it was true now. So it's been that idea of the noble PI against the forces of police corruption. That's been very consistent, I guess, in American history. I don't know when that fell out. Maybe we could have a resurgence in private investigators now on that are this cool. Also, he likes to play chess. He plays chess a lot in the High Window.
Mm-mm.
He studies chess. He plays it against himself, and I'm like, yo, I mean, it is a stereotype
He,
that smart people play chess, but
mhm.
that's a
Um, and you know what? He gets through it all by drinking copious amounts of whiskey. So, you know,
could be an alcoholic. In
just
any in the real world, he'd be considered an alcoholic. But
well, yeah, but in the 40s, I think that's the most like he just liked me for real thing like possible back then.
that is true. Um, but yeah. Also, I think that he usually avoided the attention of like romantic attention of any of the females in the book or in
That's
any of the stories.
that's true. He tends to be like he's like admired and loved, but he very much like takes a step back and doesn't abuse it quite in the way that I would almost expect him to. Like he kicks
Yeah,
the younger sister at one point, comes to him and is like throwing herself at him, and he's like, "Get out of my house, you weirdo!" like,
yeah. This line wasn't in the book, but in the movie, he says she tried to sit on my lap while I was standing up. A plus line right there. But yeah, surprisingly celibate. But like that, I'll say right now, if you decide to read Dashiell Hammett or any of the other popular noir authors, that is definitely not the case with like Sam Spade, who gets it on with a lot of the woman that he meets along the way.
a lot
So
of the woman.
yeah, so this is a weird subversion because you would expect him to basically just all these femme fatales to fawn over him, and he gives in, but he doesn't. So that is interesting. Probably the one subversion for such a like a prototype, I guess. So yeah. So in essence, Philip Marlowe, he's a snarky, celibate private investigator that likes to be on the right side of history or right side of the law, justice. No, justice because the law will sometimes not even help, so he'll just take it in his own
Yeah.
hands to just be like, Don't worry, I gotcha
the
covered.
the solo good man who cuts through all the corrupt BS, takes justice into his own hands and cuts through all the red tape and BS and gets to the heart of it.
Hmm. And yeah, I mean that is essentially all I have to say. I mean, there is one thing that I about a short story that he recently wrote. I think this kind of leads into his political views, but when he was like a bit older, like in 1956 or 1958, he wrote a short story about a that was basically just a diatribe against the U.S. healthcare system, because it was bad back then apparently. Um, this was like long lost. Like no one was able to find this up until very recently, until 2017 actually. I just found this news article, which I mean, why not? So the story was just about a man who got hit by a truck, and there was a lot of whiskey on around him, and as he's going to the hospital, the doctors just essentially just refused to treat him because it's like $50 down payment. If you don't pay, we're not treating you. So that is essentially Raymond Chandler in a nutshell. Just like he just does not uh, view highly of any government institution or business or anything. Everyone's corrupt, and that's all I gotta say. So
All right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say too. I think about Chandler and Noir.
yeah,
Maybe we'll
do
come
you
back
think?
one day, but
Probably not.
probably not. Probably not. I've experienced it. I'll probably watch maybe some more noir films, but
Yeah,
the
you
book
appreciate
the
his
books
influence.
yeah, books I was not as into.
This was my third attempt, and this will probably be my last ish attempt. I don't know. It makes for a good airplane novel. I'll say
Mm.
that a good airport novel, just like a book that you want to pick up and you don't mind not finishing because you don't understand what's going on.
Um yeah, so I think the recommendation here, if you made it this far, is give it a
N-
shot,
But not
maybe,
really.
but
I
not.
don't know.
Don't get too excited. But like it's influential, so take a look.
Maybe
Basically,
take a
yeah.
peek.
Hmm. Take a. They're short novels, so just look inside, get through it. If you don't like it, never touch anything like it again.
Because
Um,
what you see is what you get.
yeah,
Really,
yeah.
it's like
It's
it doesn't
it's
change at all throughout any of the stories.
um. Well, on that note, please, if you enjoyed, give us a like, rating, follow, subscribe, whatever is on whatever platform. If you haven't yet, you can also now find us on YouTube. In recent months, we've been posting there as well, and there will be extra content coming to YouTube in the summer. Should
I,
start.
yeah, maybe potentially. I know we've been hyping up this for a while because I know we kept on saying we'll upload on TikTok eventually. We kept on saying that,
And
but no.
TikTok's getting banned.
Yeah, so we don't have to upload that. I mean, we don't have to worry about that. We're gonna put our all our eggs into one basket. We're gonna
Yep,
upload stuff onto YouTube potentially, maybe, probably. Yes.
probably, hopefully, one
We
day.
keep on. Yeah.
But so yeah, you can find us on there. Um, You can also find us on Twitter and TikTok if it's still not banned yet. Um, whenever you're watching this, and I think or at not just any pod. I think that's it.
Yeah. Oh wait, next month, next
Oh,
week,
next month,
a
yeah,
month. It's Brave New
May
World.
we'll be doing Brave New World. I know this. We're already in May. We this is being uploaded late. Um, but May is Brave New World month. We're not sure exactly what film we're gonna do. We're probably just gonna do whatever, honestly,
Yeah.
because nothing, no
Yeah.
dystopian films are enticing us. So we might
Sorry.
just do something random. But yes, Brave New World month coming up.
Yeah. And there'll be a lot of people this time
Yeah,
because yeah, a lot of
we got some,
guests.
we
You
got
guests
some
you
guests
you don't
on.
know, but
Yeah,
we know.
yes, we got some guests coming on, and it's gonna be great. Check that out.
I mean, we hope it is. Goodbye, Prometheus.
All right.